Vocês pegaram aqui?
Attention everyone, we need to ready ourselves to begin. So our judicial team needs to be in place. The audience participation needs to quiet down and come on down and be seated. We need to start within the next minute. Thank you. At this time, we are going to have one of our conveners make an opening remark and welcome. Louisa Hanoune will make that remark. Convener, thank you.
Mesdames et messieurs, bonjour. Je vous souhaite la bienvenue au nom de la présidence du tribunal. Et également,
good morning, sisters and brothers. I welcome you in the name of the co-conveners of this tribunal.
Durant la première journée d'hier, nous avons pu écouter des témoignages sur 5 thèmes.
During the opening day yesterday, we heard testimony on 5 themes.
Nous avons été débordés dans le temps et il nous reste 2 thèmes à rattraper.
We went over time and we have to catch up on 2 important sectors.
Ce qui fait que pour la journée d'aujourd'hui, nous avons 10 thèmes à aborder avec des témoignages.
Which means that today we have 10 sectors that we have to take up with testimonies.
C'est donc un programme très très lourd et je demanderai à chacune et à chacun d'aider à ce que les travaux se déroulent de manière à pouvoir permettre à tous les témoins d'intervenir.
And I would like to call upon all of us to make it possible that we can carry out the tasks assigned to us today in such a way that all the witnesses who have come forth can be able to present their testimonies.
Mais d'ores et déjà, nous pouvons dire à l'issue de la première journée de nos travaux
But already we can say one day into our work
que les témoignages accablants et tellement précis que nous avons entendus
that the testimonies which are so powerful and so precise that we heard yesterday
non seulement corroborent les conclusions de la commission d'enquête internationale,
not only corroborate the conclusions of the International Commission of Inquiry,
mais ils établissent des responsabilités à différents niveaux de l'État.
but they also establish the responsibilities for the situation at different levels of the
Des
state.
responsabilités indépendamment de l'appartenance politique de ceux qui sont concernés.
And responsibility independently of the political affiliations of those who are concerned.
C'est-à-dire, nous sommes face à une situation où ça serait nier l'évidence
That is, we're facing a situation it would be to turn our back on this evidence,
de considérer qu'il s'agissait de simple négligence
to consider that it was just simple neglect
ou d'un manque de moyens matériels et financiers comme cela se produit dans les pays pauvres,
or a lack of means, as often the case in poor countries.
non, il s'agit plutôt d'une politique délibérée,
No, what's involved here is a deliberate policy
donc de nettoyage ethnique,
of ethnic cleansing,
et qui confirme
and that confirms
la déclaration qui a fait le tour du monde, ils nous ont laissé crever.
and that went around the world, they left us to die.
Car fondamentalement,
Because fundamentally,
sur tous les témoignages que nous avons entendus,
with all the witnesses and the testimonies that we heard,
et sur la base des faits et des preuves qui ont été versées par les différents procureurs hier,
and on the basis of facts that were put forward by the different attorneys yesterday,
le droit à la vie, qui est le droit le plus suprême d'entre tous,
the right to a life, which is the highest right of all,
a été mis en cause, a été renié
and it was that right that was put into question and
sur tous les
denied
plans.
on every level.
Et à partir de ce moment-là,
And therefore, on that basis,
c'est bien évidemment une question de droit,
it's a question of course, of rights, of
une
law,
question de réparation,
of reparations,
une question de justice et de démocratie,
of justice and democracy.
mais nous qui sommes réunis ici,
We who are gathered here,
nous ne saurions nous contenter
we could not content ourselves with
de cet aspect-là,
of just that aspect,
parce que ce n'est pas la première fois,
because it's not the first time,
parce que ça concerne une population bien particulière,
because it concerns a very particular population,
et parce que par-delà le devoir de justice,
because beyond the question of the need for justice,
il y a le devoir envers les générations futures
there is the right in relation to future generations
et envers l'humanité.
and in relation to humanity.
Donc nous allons commencer
So we're going to begin
les travaux de notre journée d'aujourd'hui, la
Our
deuxième journée de notre procès.
second session today of our tribunal. Thank you.
This honorable court we're going to proceed as follows. Prosecutor Jaribu Hill will have basically two sectors to present: the cultural rights and environmental racism. She will share with you when she makes the transition from the cultural rights sector to the environmental racism. Jaribu Hill.
Thank you, brother. Good morning to the distinguished judges, to our panel of revolutionary conveners, to all my brothers and sisters. This is a critical topic that we are covering this morning, cultural rights. And rather than simply call it the cultural rights section, we need to refer to it in its proper context, text post and pre-Katrina, and that is the theft of cultural rights, the rape of cultural rights through colonialism, through various forms of oppression from slavery to now, and even before slavery. The revolutionary Amilcar Cabral said in the course of his revolutionary activities, in the course of his battle against colonialism, which finally resulted in his assassination by our enemies, once said that culture is the seed of resistance. It is also defense. And so we are here today to talk about defending the cultural rights of our people. We're here to talk about that in the framework of international human rights, which this government continues to ignore, and certainly the testimony that you're about to hear will further emphasize that fact and underscore the benign neglect and the betrayal of this government. It is certainly connected to, as you will see from the testimony, it is connected to the history that bounds us together from the auction block to Katrina. And you will hear testimony that confirms that this morning. Without anything further from me except to put on my witness and begin her examination, I'd like to introduce the court to Ms. Cherie Harrison Nelson and ask her to take the witness chair at this time. And Your Honors, just as a point of information and for your own personal review, I have set before you your exhibit packet in advance, and as we get to the various exhibits, we will point them out to you. I also need to take the time to say that at least one row might be reserved for the judges because there will be visuals, and I'm certain that you'll want to see those without having to strain and crane your necks. And so I originally thought they would be sitting somewhere in here, but I see there is a row, if that could be reserved for the judges as they have to take those seats later on when the exhibits are going to be shown from here. Not at this time, brother. Thank you. The witness will now be sworn in. I'm the bailiff as well. Would you raise your right hand? Do you affirm that you will tell the truth today in this testimony?
Yes, I do.
Good morning, Ms. Harrison Nelson. How are you?
I'm fine. Good morning to you.
And would you please state your full name for the record?
My name is Cherie Maria Harrison Nelson.
Are we getting maximum volume? Because I'm having difficulty hearing her. Thank you.
Okay.
Are you comfortable, Ms. Nelson?
Yes.
Okay. Would you state your name again for the record?
Cherie Maria Harrison Nelson.
And can you tell us your place of birth?
I was born in New Orleans, Louisiana in 1959.
And what is your current address?
1941 Alvar Street, New Orleans, Louisiana, in the Upper Ninth Ward.
And how long have you lived at that location?
Since June of 2007, mid-June.
And prior to June of 2007, where were you living?
At 1712 Aretha Castle Haley Boulevard, apartment 202.
And where is that located?
In Central City, New Orleans.
And is that also located in the Ninth Ward?
No, it's not. It's in the not far from here, the downtown area. uptown, downtown area.
Now, you stated that you were living in the Ninth Ward in 2007, or did I misstate?
Yes, in 2007, I lived in the Ninth Ward. Immediately prior to that, I lived at 202 and 1712 or at the Castle Haley Boulevard.
Now, at the time of Hurricane Katrina, August 29th or thereabouts, 2005, where were you living?
4331 Walmsley Avenue in the Broadmoor section of New Orleans.
And tell us where the Broadmoor section of New Orleans is located.
It's uptown near Washington and Broad, and not far from Napoleon Avenue.
And where were you exactly when Hurricane Katrina first hit?
Houston, Texas, the Hyatt Downtown Hotel.
How did you manage to be in Houston?
I evacuated along with my mother and sister and her dog.
And when did you evacuate?
I think we evacuated on the 28th. It took us 17 hours to get to Houston, and I don't exactly remember, but we got there on the morning of the 28th, I think.
And when you evacuated on the 28th, why did you do that?
Because during the administration of former Mayor Mark Morial, he indicated that in the event of a catastrophic hurricane, that the city would be flooded and vertical evacuation would not be a good option, that services would be cut off and you wouldn't have electricity or the use of the sewer system, and you would be trapped in the city, and the city could possibly flood. So given that information from Mark Morial a couple of years ago, I felt that it was very important that I evacuated along with my make sure that my mother was able to evacuate also.
And your mother is with you today, is she
Yes,
not?
she is.
Now, I'd like to turn to your professional occupation. Are you currently employed?
I'm currently on a medical leave from the Recovery School District.
And would you tell us what the Recovery School District is and where it's located?
The Recovery School District was set up by the state of Louisiana in the aftermath of the levee breaks after Hurricane Katrina. And basically, those were schools that were taken over by the state. Once the school system terminated or closed several schools, the state took them over. So basically, you have 3 or 4 different school systems. You have the Recovery School District, New Orleans Public School System, charter schools, and Recovery District charter schools. Very confusing.
Thank you for giving us as much clarity as is available. Let me ask you this. Prior to working for the Recovery School District, where were you working?
I was employed by the New Orleans Public School System.
And how long did you work for the New Orleans Public School System?
24.37 years.
And at this time, I'd like to refer the judges to Exhibit 1, which is a composite exhibit, and we say that because it includes both the envelope, a copy of the envelope that the document came in, and your next 2 pages, dated February 22nd, 2006, is the actual letter that the witness received in reference to her employment with the New Orleans Public School System. Let's talk about this document for a moment, if we can. The envelope is addressed to you, is it not?
Yes.
And if we look at the second page of the document, and let me just pass one to the witness. In looking at the second page of that document, Ms. Harrison, is that document directly addressed to you?
No, it is not.
What kind of document is it then?
It's a form letter, basically to all the employees of the school system.
And that form letter indicates what?
That we are terminated.
Was that the only notification that you received that you would be terminated from the New Orleans Public School System?
To the best of my recollection, it is.
Did you receive any telephonic communication from the school district about your employee?
No, I did not.
Have you received anything since February 2006?
Only something in reference to continuing your health insurance, and I don't remember when that came, but I think it's to get into COBRA. But this is it, and it also was a form letter.
And at the time when you were terminated from New Orleans public school system, were you in good standing with the school system?
Yes, I was.
And what type of evaluations did you receive while you were employed with the school system for 24 years?
I received satisfactory, good evaluations.
And at the time when you were released from employ, had you had any reason to think that you were no longer eligible to work in the school system?
No, I did not.
And which area of education did you work in?
I worked in with exceptional children, gifted individuals. And there's a shortage of certified teachers in that area.
And when you say exceptional students, gifted students, what do you mean by that?
I mean children that are academically advanced and intellectually, they score higher than the norm on intelligence tests. They usually have very good problem-solving skills, and I just would like to add I was very good at my job because I was able to find an underrepresented population, which is African American males.
Thank you for that additional information. And, Your Honors, I'd like to direct you to yet another exhibit marked as Exhibit 2, which is the companion to the first exhibit, the vitae of Ms. Sharice Harrison Nelson, and hopefully that will help you as you review this evidence later on to show that this is a 24-year teacher who was dismissed, summarily dismissed, without any due process rights, without any other notification other than a form letter. Final question about the educational issue, because there is someone later that will testify on the education issues in general, but just one more question, Ms. Nelson, as we proceed on. At the time when you were released from employment with the New Orleans Public School District, did you have a pension?
Do you mean a retirement plan?
Yes.
Yes, I did have a retirement. We do have a retirement plan with the state.
And are you able to get access to that plan at this time?
I am able to get access to the plan, but and I actually wanted to retire, but they did not inform us of our rights. So by the time I tried to retire, I would have had to retire without health care, and that is why I went back to work. We weren't informed of our any of our rights.
Okay. Thank you for that. Moving on now to the reason for this testimony today, and as you know, this is the cultural rights section of this tribunal, and you have a great deal of information to share with the judges and the conveners and the audience present to bear witness about a particular cultural art form. And what is that art form that you're prepared to testify about today?
The Mardi Gras Indian tradition.
Now, most of us here who've been to New Orleans before are certainly familiar with Mardi Gras. But for those who may not be familiar with the Mardi Gras Indian tradition, would you please explain to the court, and for the judge's edification especially, what you mean when you say Mardi Gras Indian?
Well, the Mardi Gras Indian tradition began, we don't have an exact date because it is truly an African-based tradition, so it is maintained orally and transmitted orally and by direct contact. But from what the elders tell us, it predates the 1880s, and it is born out of the relationships between people of African descent and native people of the area. When Mardi Gras celebrations started, people of African descent were not allowed to participate in the traditions because of the Jim Crow and Black Code laws, and therefore they created their neighborhood celebrations, community-based celebrations. But rather than take on European motifs, they decided to take on a native motif to pay homage to the Native Americans for the assistance that they extended to them during the time when our ancestors were enslaved, and they were often able to escape the plantations and go into those groupings and be assimilated, and also the commonality between traditional West African traditions as well as Native people traditions.
Thank you for that information. Now, moving on further into that particular stream of testimony, you spoke about a time when Mardi Gras was segregated in terms of involvement of people of African descent. How long did that particular condition persist as far as Mardi Gras?
Well, I guess I don't know exactly when it, by law, but it still exists today basically in practice. that there's basic.
We can break for an applause. You can proceed.
Yes, it exists in practice. There's a white Mardi Gras, and there's a Mardi Gras for people of African descent. And we have our traditions and practices in the communities where we live for our people. And the other more European people, Mardi Gras for people of European descent, is basically in their communities, and they sit up high and they throw trinkets down low, but we march through our communities with our people, neighborhood processions for our people.
So the neighborhood processions are actually forming a separate and distinct culturally diverse Mardi Gras, is that right?
Yes.
And it's framed around the culture of African people.
Yes.
At this time, I'd like to offer for judges' review, and I apologize to the audience that these are not available as the PowerPoint will be so that you too can see them, but I'm going to ask the witness to explain them first and hold them up so that you can at least capture it somewhat through visual eye. And these are documents that belong to the witness, part of her private archival collection that was able to survive, miraculously able to survive the storm and the breakage of the levee. So at this time, I'll pass them to the witness and ask that she would then pass them to you, judges, for your review one by one, and we will proceed with a PowerPoint presentation.
And are these going to be exhibits?
Yes, they are going to be exhibits. They're going to be reference exhibits because she will not be able to allow the tribunal to keep them, but they will be described in great detail and be used as reference exhibits. We have other exhibits, including the PowerPoint, that will be left with the tribunal.
Okay.
Tight squeeze. Passing them to the witness first so she can share them with the general public and then pass them to the judges, if you would.
Okay. I'm a third known generation Mardi Gras Indian. The first person that we actually knew to mask in my family was my great uncle Joseph King. This is my father, the late Donald Harrison Sr. He, during his lifetime, served as the big chief, which would correlate to a paramount chief in West Africa of 4 different groups: the Creole Wild West, the Cherokee Braves, the White Eagles, and the last group he formed in before he passed, the Guardians of the Flame. And this picture was taken outside of our house, and this was the last time he masked in 1969 before he organized the Guardians of the Flame in 1989. And this is just a portfolio, basically, of some of the activities of the Mardi Gras Indian Hall of Fame. I'm the curator, as well as a few pictures from my participation and my family's participation in the Mardi Gras Indian tradition. On the cover, you see a picture of myself, my son, the current big chief of the Guardians of the Flame, and a young man, Edward Johnson, who not only masked as a Mardi Gras Indian, but as a member of a social and pleasure club. And at the end, we have some pictures drawn by children. And I just want to bring your attention, we use these pictures and the Mardi Gras Indian tradition to help children write about the tradition and to create songs and chants that would highlight what happened to them. And you have children depicting 8, 9, 7 years old, walking in water through our streets up to their necks, and the buses are at the top, waiting to unload them.
And giving the judges a few moments to look at the document, and then we will go into the PowerPoint presentation. We also have for judges' review and to be marked as exhibits some additional support articles, including, and they are in your packet, to be marked as exhibits 4, 5, and 6. The first one is entitled Mardi Gras Indians Feted at 9th Annual Hall of Fame Award Ceremony. The next exhibit is entitled Times Picayune Living, and this is in the section ironically called Money. And it depicts as well the whole tradition of the Mardi Gras Indian. It particularly focuses on passing that tradition on to our young people, which will be the next stage of testimony following the PowerPoint, which will be shown at this time. And if we could give the judges a moment to peruse documents, and you will let me know when. Yes. Yes, Your Honor. Okay. Does everyone have everything? Okay, great. We tried to collate them in order. The final piece in that sort of trilogy of documents is an article called Guarding the Flame of Life, and it too is being marked into evidence. And I will allow the witness to explain at this time what this article means to her in particular.
This was an article written by Kalamu Yasalam on my father's funeral. And why this is important is because Mardi Gras Indians have distinct grieving rituals. Distinct grieving rituals. They are not practiced or given or shared except for Mardi Gras Indians. You can buy a jazz funeral if you have enough money, but there's no amount of money that can buy the funeral, a Mardi Gras Indian funeral. You have to be a participant. So Kalamu describes it, and one thing he says in this article is that if you weren't there, it's hard to put it on a piece of paper because it is a living tradition. It is organic, and so you could never have two of the same because they happen at the moment. But still, within happening in the moment, there are distinct protocols that happen within a funeral. With people being dispersed, it's very difficult if you die or unfortunately pass in another area of the country and your family is not able to bring you back. Also, communication is very difficult. We don't have newspaper service in some areas. Everyone does not have access to the internet. So there's a great possibility that a member of our community will pass and we will not know, and he will not get a proper send-off or a send-off in a style that we like to send people off. And that, to me, is a great tragedy that you do not have the burial that is supposed to be accorded to you because of the dispersal of our people.
Okay. Thank you. And talking a little bit more about Chief Donald Harrison Sr., and as you indicated, that was your father, is that correct?
Yes.
And how long was Chief Harrison a member of the Mardi Gras Indian tradition?
He started masking in 1949, but he was first influenced by the Mardi Gras Indian tradition when he was just a young child of 3 years old, when he witnessed a Mardi Gras Indian and he picked him up and held him in his arms. That's when he would always tell us he fell in love with the tradition.
And up until your father's death, was he a Mardi Gras Indian?
Yes.
Okay. And if we refer quickly, judges, please, to the article entitled Mardi Gras Indians Feted at 9th Annual Hall of Fame Awards Ceremony. And I'll pass it to the witness. And in the right-hand corner, there is a photograph that I'd like you to explain to the judges and the audience, if you would.
And this one?
Yes.
Yes, that's a picture of Joseph Allen of the Red, White, and Blue group. And he came in from Texas just to participate in the 9th Annual Mardi Gras Indian Hall of Fame Awards because it is so important for us as a community to get together that he would drive from Houston to New Orleans to participate in a weekend of events and be around fellow Mardi Gras Indians because we can't get together like we normally get together.
Thank you. Are you also referred to as Queen Sharice Harrison Nelson?
Yes, I am a queen.
And can you explain that title to us, please?
Well, queens mask in parallel positions to chiefs. And my first position was second queen because I masked with the second chief. The next year, my father elevated me to the position of big queen because I masked with him. And my father's a purist, and I'm really okay with this. He said that I asked him what would my role be now that I was going to be the big queen, and he told me that I would be a mere embellishment. because a chief is pretty, but he's prettier with the queen. And so the reason why I'm okay with that is because as a woman, and a woman of African descent, I'm okay with holding our men up as the strong cultural warriors and heroes that they are. And I know my place in this tradition when I walk alongside my chief. And I'm proud to walk alongside the chief as a woman in a male-dominated tradition. That doesn't mean that I don't get to do things in a tradition. I've found a way to exert my leadership role in a tradition.
I'm certain that you have. I'm certain. I have no doubt. Does anyone here have any doubt that that's true? Thank you for that additional testimony. That's very important for us to underscore that. We also are going to talk about in more detail the tradition itself, and we have a few demonstrations that we're going to do, and at that time the audience will have an opportunity to see more than just the photographs from a distance, and certainly the judges up close. Now, as we begin this journey into the Mardi Gras tradition, I'd like to turn your attention to the PowerPoint and take a couple of moments for the judges to retire from these seats out into the audience in that section where there should be enough seats for all of you to sit together so that we can prepare to watch the PowerPoint and get further testimony from Queen Sharice Harrison Nelson.
I'm not sure this is the right PowerPoint. I think it's the one with Tribunal. I think this is not the right one. I think it's not the right PowerPoint. It's two on that disk, and it needs to be the one with the Tribunal. No, it's another whole PowerPoint. It's a different PowerPoint.
Okay, so how do we get to that?
They need to click on the one that says Tribunal.
Okay, we're here. We're here.
The tech guy.
Yeah, still understand. Okay. You want to just, okay. Give us just a couple of minutes to,
Sorry.
no problem.
I'm a teacher, so I have to use my flash drive for a lot of stuff, and I'm not like real technical to be able to take off. Just no basic stuff. Yeah, Tribunal.
The Tribunal one.
Well, if not, you can just use the other one. But I made them both on the same computer, and I can deal with the other one.
Want to use the other one?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
It's unfortunate. Okay, I'm a teacher, so we're going to go to Plan B. So
And what is the title of this presentation?
it's on the Mardi Gras Indian Hall of Fame, and I can just kind of explain. And the main thing with the PowerPoint was to give you a visual of what it looks like, what Mardi Gras Indians look like, because you can't really describe them. And that's just the annual. And it tells that the Mardi Gras Indian Hall of Fame goes on in that my father taught the children lessons on life and the importance of respecting and honoring each other. Okay. You can kind of skip through that. And there's a picture of my father. Okay. And one of the elders from the tradition who started a group. You can go on. And there you see all the children on the yard. This is pre-Katrina. And so the children had an opportunity not only to learn about the traditions of the Mardi Gras Indians, but to honor community heroes, heroes that they encounter at the gas stations, in the grocery stores, heroes that we define, not the ones defined in textbooks by people who live in Minnesota or California or New York. We, at the school, in our community, say who the heroes are. The children actually picked one of the people to receive that coveted Crystal Feather Award. That is like the Academy Awards of the Mardi Gras Indian community. They're specially commissioned, and you get them by the community saying, you deserve an award. You deserve this award. And that's one of the elders who worked with the children over the course of a semester from November to March, actually longer than a semester. Big Chief Rudy Bougere, Sr., he's no longer with us, but he taught the children everything there was to know about the Mardi Gras Indian tradition at that school, a public school. And he actually, parallel with the children, made Indian suits for them to wear. We had a Mardi Gras Indian gang that was based at the school. The Haley Braves. They weren't afraid of learning. They weren't afraid of trying, and that's what the Haley Braves meant. And the children learned everything, and we put textbooks aside. We didn't use any textbooks for that semester, and the children all, we didn't need to. The children all scored at or above what they were expected to score on the standardized test. Okay. And then Chief Tootie Montana, one of the revered members of our community who passed in the city council chambers in June of 2005, standing up and speaking out against police brutality.
All right.
Walter Cook, who's the chief of the oldest known gang, the Creole Wild West. Okay. Could you go back to that slide?
Sure. If I know how. Okay.
If you see, there's a quilt hanging over the banister, and that quilt has beaded images because we use the imagery of children, and the images were beaded by my mother, but the children also wrote about environmental justice and how it relates to them as children. So you had children writing about, at the time, there was a house, and I just want to show you how deep this culture is, and you can use it to teach children, that they used some type of spray, and the people who went in to clean the house had on those bio suits and the masks, but the people who lived in the house didn't have to wear that, and even the children saw the hypocrisy in that. Okay. Just the elder again. And there you have 4 or 5 chiefs. That's Chief Clarence Delcor and Chief Victor Harris Fayaya with the kindergarten babies, encouraging them, because that's the way you learn, by immersion. I sang the call, you sang the response with me, and you encourage them until it becomes part of their being and part of their soul and part of their spirit. And you just see the kids really having a good time. And you can see, those are our students and the community that came into the school. We were a community school. We were a school of choice, a public school of choice. And the chiefs with the principal on the ramp, okay. That's one of the Mardi Gras Indians, and he actually received an award, and the children wanted him to receive one. His name is Cyril Green, and he's in a wheelchair. This tradition means so much that not even being paralyzed can keep you from wanting to do this. He crafted a suit that he could wear in a wheelchair, and if I must say, it's a very beautiful suit. Okay. It's just some of our honorees, and it's important for us to always call the names and name the people, because we have to name our ancestors and those who are important to us. Okay. This gentleman is actually displaced in Oakland, California, and he's trying to get back. He's working on getting a Habitat for Humanity house, and it kills him. And we call him 504-411 because he has more information on what's happening in the 504 than the people that live here, because he wants to be here so much that he calls around. And if you need somebody's number, you actually can call California and get him to give the number, because he's so up on what's happening. Okay. Often it's said that the Mardi Gras Indians are, very poor, and a lot of negative things. Well, to be a Mardi Gras Indian is a lifestyle choice. You make a choice to be a Mardi Gras Indian. This gentleman is a Mardi Gras Indian, but he's the principal of a high school in New Orleans. He was also an area superintendent with the school system. He, of course, was downsized because of the hurricane, the levee breaks that followed the hurricane. But we are a diverse group. We come from all walks of life. This gentleman also was an innovator in a tradition in that he really went back and embodied the African retentions and African roots of our tradition. Okay. Okay, and it's just the names. And this is pictures from the 1940s. This gentleman is very concerned with the grieving traditions being maintained in the aftermath of the levee breaks after Hurricane Katrina. He has told me, and I have to listen because he's my elder, that we're going to make a pall, a casket covering, and it's going to have the beaded images from different groups, and even those who are displaced will give a piece to put on this pall, and it will cover the caskets. It can never be shown in public. It's for us, for the Mardi Gras Indians. It's not to hang in a museum. But the reason he said it takes on new urgency is because in the aftermath of our city being devastated by the flood, if we don't maintain and record the beating styles of some individuals, those people may never mask again, and they will go through and we won't know they existed, and we cannot allow that to happen as a community. That's one of the young men in the community. We have young chiefs and older chiefs. Another young, he's in Austin. He's displaced to Austin, and he's trying to get back also. And this is one of the elders in the tradition, and his house was totally devastated, and you know, he had to tear it down, and he's rebuilding his home. Mass for over 55 years. That's my brother coming out of St. Augustine Church. You know, only in New Orleans can you come out of a Catholic church with a Mardi Gras Indian suit. Big Chief Bodalis, who's ill now, one of the most famous Mardi Gras Indians. And just the names are important, and that's one of the elder chiefs. Another one of the elder chiefs, who was actually credited with being originator of some of the Mardi Gras Indian songs that have been stolen. But anyway, that's my chief. When I massed as second chief, Joseph Jenkins, he came back here when they said the his zip code was open, and he was very, very upset when he came back because there weren't any city services. He couldn't get to his home, and the one thing that gave him solace during this very difficult period during his life was the December 10th march sponsored by People's Hurricane Relief. Right. He wanted to speak, and he wanted to say what they're doing us is wrong, what they have done to us is wrong. They have disregarded us. They don't care about us. And for him to be able to stand up in that venue was very important to him. And that's this is Lionel, and he made a castle to represent. I'm told that he is the king of his castle, his domain. So there are many ways people, and it has a moat, and a horse is really elaborate. Okay.
Scared of him.
Chief Bannock. Okay. This is what was lost when in the aftermath of the hurricane. At the ceremonies, we had a drum orchestra with children, students who learned African rhythms. We don't have that anymore. That is gone. For us to have 30 or 40 kids playing percussion instruments. Okay. Okay. And that's just, I think most of it is just, you can kind of go through them fast. Just names and different ones. This is a woman who received the Queen's Choice Award, masked over 50 years, Barbara Sparks. We have to call their name. She's trying to get into a house because she's having a lot of respiratory problems in the aftermath of the storm because we live in a toxic environment. We live in it 24/7. Okay. And that's Harold Baptiste, one of our elders in the community. We have to honor them. He was the music director for the Sonny and Cher show. We want our children to know this man lives in your community. He started a record company. That's our hero. Kalamu Yasalam.
All right.
Paul, he's a businessman. He has a yacht.
Summation. I was going to state the charges as I was taught to do, but in the interest of time and moving the lawyer ego out of the way and letting the revolutionary's ego come forward, which is much smaller, I will yield all of that if you'll excuse it, Judge. Thank you. And so thank you all very much for your participation, and thank you, judges, for this section. I would also like to thank, and I'm sorry, what's your mother's name?
Hariste.
Sister Hariste, who is Dr. Nelson's mother, for her testimony.
We're certified. That's
right. Okay, all right.
We're doing that.
And we'll move now to the environmental racism section and say to the judges that you have a couple of moments to refresh yourselves because we're going to set up and put the exhibits before you, collecting whatever you don't use here and putting out the next set of exhibits for this section. Monique.
And I talk a lot.
That's all right. Well, let's see. Do you have a card? Some information?
If you want a big old piece of paper, I can give you a big old piece of paper because I actually didn't bring my interview.
Well, that's fine, because I didn't bring in much of my cards anyway. I used to teach at Spelman.
Oh, yeah, I did a residency at Spelman with
Just going to put the exhibits out as we get
Yeah,
ready to roll.
Yeah.
Witnesses are here.